Hello guys, I'm back. I thought I'd show you something I just picked up a couple days ago. Some radios. This is Atwater Kent 612. Pretty much complete with the speakers but no cabinet. It's missing one tube. 58. I've got 58s, that's not a problem. But I went through it, checked it out, and found that all the important stuff is good on it. Transformer's good, the choke's good, audio transformers are good, interstage and output. So even though it don't have a cabinet, it's in good shape. So I'll probably just restore it, clean it up and restore it, and just leave it the way it is until I eventually might run across a cabinet for it. You see cabinets every once in a while on Craigslist and eBay and stuff. This is a Craigslist find. The other radio chassis that has no cabinet is a Philco. It's a, let's see, I think a 620 is best I can determine. There's no markings on it, but it's in that area. I believe 620 is about the closest. It's all complete. Everything seems to check out all right. So anyway, so I'll probably just restore it too. I don't have a speaker for it, but I do have speakers, so that's not a real serious problem there. Now, the other chassis does have a cabinet, and I'll show you the cabinet here in a minute. It's a giant of a chassis. It's a TRF radio, and it's a Majestic from about 1929-1930. I took all the tubes out. I had all the tubes with it. This transformer, it's massive, and it checks good. Everything checks good on it. I just got the knob stuck on here. I've had it opened up. The bottom pan is setting here. This thing weighs a ton. I don't know, it does have a few little problems. One thing is, and I don't know if you can see it, but every one of the sections of the tuning condenser when it's fully closed are shorting. The biggest problem is they're shorting in such a way, this stator is tight against this rotor, and this rotor, and then it starts going the other direction this way. And the reason for that is if I rotate it open, has to do with the fact that Majestics were notorious for using pot metal to hold their plates, and pot metal expands as it ages. So I've dealt with this before. It's a time-consuming thing, but you have to actually reposition every plate by literally bending it, because there's nothing you can do with the pot metal. So you have to kind of reform the plates and bend them so they don't short. Although this one seems to be only shorting when it gets down pretty close to the bottom end of the scale, which really would not be a problem for me in my area, because we don't have pretty much anything below 900. There is just no local or radio stations that, even with the best of radios, I can pick up, except once in a blue moon. like at night doing some DXing. Otherwise, all of our local stations are above 900, so I may not mess with it. It does have a, I believe it's the interstage transformer that has an open secondary on it. I believe it's secondary, yeah, open secondary. At one end it's center tapped, and one end to the center tap is fine. The other end is open, and it is showing fully open, so it may be right at the surface, right where the wire connects. So I haven't decided what I'll do about that. I am probably definitely, since it's a secondary, it's the outer winding, so I might attempt to fix it. Don't know yet. Otherwise, everything else checks good on it. The cabinet is right here. It's got, you know, it's got some definite wear, scratches and stuff on it. Grill cloth has got a little tear in it, but the speaker's in good condition. The escutcheon is missing all but one screw, which is not a big deal. These radios actually turned on to the side here and operated that way. The one switch that is missing is the local long distance switch. I've got some old style switches that I could put in there. That's not a problem if I want to put that on there. Basically it just shorted out one coil, so for local, and then it allowed that coil in place, one of the antenna coils, when it was on distant. The back side you probably can't see too well. There's a speaker, there's a plug down there that the chassis plugs into. I might be able to get some light on this. Yeah, here we go. And that's a speaker. The speaker wiring is, if I zoom in, you can see it's rubber, and it is totally deteriorating. The upper section is in good shape. Don't know if you can see that very good. Nice little tag on it. So other than probably really it would probably really seriously need just to be refinished. I think it's got enough scratches on the top, although the sides are not too bad, but I haven't decided yet. Grill cloth would be interesting to try to find for this. Now I saved the best for last, other than one other item. A Radiola, RCA Radiola 20 radio chassis, radio. It is the model that stands on its own legs. The batteries would go down below. It actually came with a voltmeter. That was an optional thing for them. It just plugs in. So all the tubes in it. I haven't actually really checked anything out on this, although there's not a whole lot to these. The rubber at the ends, this floats on rubber. Well, this end had pretty well deteriorated away, so I'll have to rig something up for that. And it's got a nice label on there telling you how to hook the batteries up. And then if you're going to use a battery eliminator, it tells you what to do with it, which this thing was originally set up to do that. It talks about putting a metal pan in it, and which is in there. Normally this pan would not be in here. The instructions tell you to cut the bottom out and then drop this metal pan in and fasten it in, and then that's where the battery eliminator would go. But I don't have the battery eliminator, so I might see about making one for it. It does say that, you know, and which was the case, most battery eliminators did not come with a C battery, which is your grid voltage, bias voltage, but they, you know, grids don't draw any current, so that's not a big deal. You can set that up with regular batteries and they would just basically last their shelf life anyway. Some of the controls on here, you have volume control, battery setting, and two veneers. They're just little variable caps. This is a regenerative type radio. That's what the amplification knob does here. It adjusts a coil, and of course your tuning. But she's in pretty decent condition and stuff, so nice and clean. Now, one last little thing was a Homebrew radio, is the best I could tell it is, although it has no tuning condenser. There's 4 IF cans on it, or 5 IF cans on it, 2 crystals. Whoever built it, probably the person that owned these radios originally, used nivistors here and some miniatures here other than the rectifier tube. This is a choke, power transformer, IFs. There's a 600 kill cycle crystal in it, 2 pots, audio transformer, and it was a work in progress. They took out the connector here, or hadn't even got it put in yet, I don't know which. But some of the connections were temporary and they're loose, and so I think it was a work in progress as they was working on it, and it never got finished. As far as I'm concerned, at this point, since all the tubes are not in it, it's difficult to determine for sure what each, you know, the ones that are missing, what they were. Of course, you know, it's Homebrew, so there's absolutely zero schematic and or any type of reference. So it'll probably just be something for parts. It's got a lot of nice 9-pin, 6-pin sockets, of course nivistor sockets, there's 4 of those. Good transformer, good audio transformer, single-ended, of course fuse holder, probably the resistors, and at least the ceramic caps, and there's a few micas in here are probably good. Of course terminals and stuff. So it'll be just something for parts. I'm not going to try to spend a lot of time trying to figure out exactly what it was. Whatever it was, I'm not sure. They have a mixer tube in the middle of the circuitry, and I'm not sure exactly what they're intended. I don't know if it was actually a radio or a transmitter of some sort or a transceiver. Either way, it's set frequency. There's no adjustment to it. There's nothing to adjust the frequency. So the video's starting to get a little long. I will probably actually work on this one first. Mainly, now these are not the right rectifier tubes. It takes 2 83s. Someone had put in what they call an 83V, 83Vs are different than 83s, but I do have a couple 83s I can put in. 83s are your mercury rectifier tubes. The mercury allows them to be very stable. Almost acts like almost a voltage regulator, but it keeps the current stable. Because this does not use a push-pull output, it uses what is known as a push-push. When I get into this radio and get to that audio output, I'll discuss what a push-push is. But it requires a very steady current from the power supply, and mainly because on push-pull the current stays fairly stable on your output tubes when they're running, and whether you have signal or not. I mean, they adjust with the signal, but otherwise when the signal's not there, there's a steady current. And even with the signal, the current varies on either side of that signal, or either side of that baseline current. And with a push-push, when there's no signal, there's virtually no current on the tubes. It allows the tubes to stay a little cooler and run a little cooler, and the radio is more efficient. But to do that, when you start immediately drawing a large amount of current, as you would in a output, on your output, audio output, you can really drop the voltage real quickly on the power supply. So you need something to regulate it a little bit, and they used 83s. Well, 83Vs are not mercury, and so, but that's not a big deal. Like I said, I also got a 58 that I can replace the one that's missing. So the only other thing about it is the fact that this one here and this one here and this one here are original electrolytics. This one's been a replacement, but it's close enough in looks that, well, unless I told you, you probably really wouldn't have paid that close attention to it. One other thing that is missing on this uses and it's not here. There's a slot right here, and I don't know if you can see it right there. What that is a tube that went in there. It's actually nothing but a neon light that's set down in here. You can kind of, if I rotate around, see where it connects to, or what holds it in place. What that is, well, Atwater Kent called it a tone beam. There's various names for it, but basically, instead of being like just two electrodes like you see in any neon light, there's a third electrode that you supply voltage to. The more voltage you apply to it, the light would actually start with very little voltage, would start down low, and as you increase the voltage on that third leg, it would increase up. So it was an indicator. It's just a neon indicator for when you're bringing in a signal, just like, you know, your 6U5-6E5 Magic Eye tubes. This was a period before the Magic Eye tube came out. They're hard to find. I read some articles about guys who have actually used regular neon light bulbs and put them on a board and added some resistors in it to simulate the thing, but the radio works without it. It just would be nice to have it in there. So, but I'll probably work on that radio first, being this one's going to take a little more work to get done. The Philco would be something that would be left till last. Now the speakers do need some attention to the cones. As you can see, the cones need some repair. This has 2 speakers basically running parallel. So I'll have to do some repair on those. But with the 83s in here glowing their nice little purplish color, whitish purple, and the chassis is in pretty darn decent shape, just needs a good cleaning. Everything cleaned up, everything nice and shiny, and these tubes glowing nicely and all that. I think the radio would actually look pretty decent just setting out of the chassis. The feet on it are in excellent condition, so it might be something that I might actually seriously consider, just having a chassis set out and operate. Although the speakers won't sound as good unless they're in a cabinet, but it would be kind of interesting. So I better cut this. I'm at 21 minutes, so excuse the mess out here. I haven't done anything except it's been a catch-all. But anyway, that's the stuff I found. Oh, by the way, I paid 150 bucks for everything you see. I didn't think it was too bad. It was for the guy. The guy's grandpa is the one that owned this stuff. He died a few years ago. His grandmother had the stuff, but she had this early this summer or late spring had to move into assisted living, and so he started selling the stuff off for her to have some extra spending money and money for herself. And so I felt that, you know, I wasn't gonna say too much about the price. He did put $150 or best offer. I didn't haggle with him. I could have, but to me, I consider it going to a good cause anyway. So, and you know, they're pretty well all complete radios in really pretty decent condition. So anyway, I'm gonna get off of here, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Thanks for watching. Thank you for my new subscribers, and thank you for your comments. I've been trying to get back to some of them. It's just been pretty hectic this summer. Hopefully things will start winding down as we approach later in the fall and stuff. The remodel is getting wound down a little bit. There's still a couple rooms to do and some other work, and so hopefully within a month that it'll be getting pretty good to a point that things will slow down. So see you guys on the next video, and thanks for watching. Y'all have a good day.